If you're a fan of The Andy Griffith Show, you may not know his name, but you're sure to know his face. He's one of Opie's pals. He's Dennis Rush, who played Howie Pruitt on The Andy Griffith Show.
Oh, hi.
Miss B, Sheriff, this is my son, Howie.
Oh, we know Howie. How's the bike business, Howie?
But his fame goes way beyond Mayberry.
You haven't told me any of this stuff.
Dennis seemed to have the perfect film career as a child star, kicking it off with James Cagney and wrapping it up with Walt Disney. Here's my interview with Dennis Rush.
You had such an exciting career as a child actor. I wanted to talk about your experiences on the Andy Griffith Show, but I also want to talk about how did you even get started as a child actor?
Thank you. It was a cute Hollywood story. My dad was a film editor with Universal Studios, and if you were good, I grew up with lots of brothers and sisters. If you were good, you got to go have lunch with Dad at the studio. So you had private time. So I am at the Universal commissary with my dad, and hey, it's just a whole bunch of adults, but there's cowboys and Indians and all that. And a nice gentleman comes up and taps my dad on the shoulder and said, I'm looking for a little boy to play my son in a movie, and I just can't find the right boy. And he said, your son is just a spitting image of me as a young man. And when you see the pictures of us together, well, I really do look more like James Cagney than I do my own dad. So this was Jimmy Cagney looking for a son for Man of a Thousand Faces, life story of Lon Chaney. And
yeah, that was a big picture too.
That's I had about a half hour of a 2-hour movie. And wow. James Cagney he hand carried me through every scene. I could not, read or write at the time. And James Cagney would say, okay, run over and jump into that lady's arms and say, hi, Mom. Well, Mom was Dorothy Malone. Well, she had just won the Academy Award the year before and for Best Supporting Actress. Well, now run over and jump into that man's arms, and that's your uncle. Hey, Uncle. Well, Uncle is Jim Backus, of course, from Gilligan, but to me, Mr. Magoo. So, but he would just take little bits and pieces and, little scenes. And I don't want to carry too long, but the pivotal scene was James Cagney and Dorothy Malone. They separated, and an actor in the 1930s was pretty low job in the world. And so the judge said, hey, single dad, no way. You have to put your son in an orphanage. And so the pivotal scene is James Cagney putting me in this orphanage. Well, we're filming right around Christmas, and we're playing and having a good time. And he takes me by the hand, and we walk around the Phantom of the Opera stage. It's still up there if you go up on the Universal tour. But he took me by the hand. He goes, now all make pretend, Denny. And it was always, if he called me Den, I knew we were good. And he said, now the little boy's never going to see Mom and Dad again. He knew I loved fried chicken. No more fried chicken. No more seeing your brothers and sisters. How do you think the little boy feels? I was a wreck. Real, live, tears, hands shaking. Boom. We go in, film, only about 10 minutes, couple different angles. And he then walks me back to my mom and dad, and I'm still sobbing. And he says, he's just had his first acting lesson, and he's pretty good.
That's amazing that you were able to take that direction and internalize it at that age.
He, again, was just so good. And we exchanged Christmas cards until the year he died. Every year, nice little Christmas card. And once in a while, he'd write just the nicest letter. Den, just checking on you, saying how you're doing, what's going on, how you doing in school. He was just my other dad forever.
Pretty good first gig with James Cagney and a major role nice in a feature film. So, but you grew up around the business with your dad being in the industry as a film editor. Now, back then, editing was pretty serious, a technical job. I mean, you were actually working with film strips and all that stuff. Nowadays, it's so much easier with computers.
Yeah,
but yeah, it was a true craft.
And he loved the bits and pieces of movies. It was jigsaw puzzles to him. He loved to put the little pieces. In all my time, I never remember him going to a movie. But he would, someone would ask, hey, can you get a 30-second shot of a plane landing in a Chicago snowstorm? Boom, he had a great memory, and he, boom, mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, I remember seeing that. So little snip, put that 30-second spot in, and that was the old way of making movies.
being on the Universal lot, I used to, when I was a kid, my mother worked in radio, and they did a radio show from the back lot. This was after that period, but in the 70s, I think. And so I spent some time on the back lot, and just the tour was like really a tour back then. It wasn't rides, things like that. And, learned so much about the industry just from hanging out and going on that tour. And
realizing how compact it all was. There's 4 streets that are Westerns, and turn around and 1 block away is New York City. And that magic of Hollywood.
Well, we were watching The Sting the other night, and I remember that was like a big topic on the tour at that time when I was taking the tour a lot. And, my wife's like, wait, what is this supposed to be? Oh, it's Chicago. She's like, is this New York? And I'm like, no, it's Chicago. New York's around the corner.
Exactly.
And I remember one night I was actually editing at a facility on the Universal backlot, and we went late, as you always do in this business. And I remember I got lost trying to get out of Universal Studios, and I wound up in New York, right in New York City.
I mean, it's a giant area. Yeah, it's amazing.
So let's talk about a few of the episodes that, certainly the Mayberry Man fans will be familiar with. Your first one was Andy Discovers America.
That might not be a bad idea. You know that?
What?
Form a kind of a troupe, a history troupe. Mayberry Minutemen.
Yeah. Hey, how about that? I got a canteen.
Will you help us?
I remember first day walking onto the set and running into the 2 biggest kid actors in Hollywood. A lot of kids thought they were big actors, but to meet Ron Howard and to meet Keith Thibodeaux, little Ricky from I Love Lucy, and these 2 guys were just so nice and warm and just took me right in. Took me right into the Mayberry family, and then to meet Mr. Griffith and Mr. Knotts and Aunt Bee. It was a family. Little did I realize that it was Miss Crump's first episode too. So we both started together, but to go in and do, the scenes right away. I remember the first day was in the classroom, and we're being little wise guys to Miss Crump.
Howard.
I didn't do nothing.
Rise, please. Didn't you do your homework either?
Well, he gets away with it. Why don't I?
Yeah, he gets quiet, class. Quiet, boys. Nobody is getting away with anything.
And then for Andy to take us on that great adventure, we go in and tell him, how rough it is.
Well, take it easy. Take a deep breath.
I told her like you said, Pa. I told her.
You told who what?
Old Lady Crump. No, she didn't. Double homework for everybody. Only the boys. Only the boys, not the girls. But you know what? We ain't gonna do it. Right, Phyllis? Right.
And then he's going to kind of twist and turn, and he always knew how to tell a story.
You sure you want to hear this story? It's history.
Come on.
For Pete's sake, tell the story.
But for him to take us into the jail cell, and he's sitting in the rocking chair, and I tell you, what a class act he was. Most actors, and he had a long speech to give in that episode about the Redcoats are coming and, the Minutemen and the whole bit. And big actors, some of the big actors, would be off on their, doing other business, and the script reader or the assistant director would do the lines if the actor wasn't on set. Not Andy.
Because you had one camera, right? And when you turn, they shot Andy giving the speech already, right? Now they're going to turn the camera around, and all the camera sees are the kids and Barney listening, right?
Exactly.
So it's the reactions,
And you said it. Andy wanted to make sure that he gave us his very best, and he expected the same from us. And so every bit of that was Andy. He must have done that speech 20 times, different angles and the whole bit. But no, I didn't like that one. Let's do it another way. But that was so impressive to me as a kid that, he wanted us to get his best. And we did. We shared that.
And the shot was so loud, it was heard clear around the world.
Oh, get out.
So a lot of actors, regardless of age, will end up in a series. It could be a really popular series, but they're not necessarily in scenes with the principal, stars. And yet you were there with Andy. You were in a scene. You're working with Barney, Don Knotts. And did it feel intimidating at all, or did just you're sort of a veteran at that point, and you're just
again, you called yourself a veteran, small V. But no, they took you in and embraced you. And again, that show was so easy, fun to do. Most TV shows, and well, take 5 days, Monday through Friday, and barely get it done for a 30-minute, 22-minute segment. That show took 3 days. We went in on Friday. You would get the script about a week in advance, read through. My mom was very good. If we were in 2 scenes or we were in the whole episode, she would make sure we would read the entire script and we know the story. And then sit around the table, the adults at one end, the kids at the other end, and we would just go through the dialogue a couple times. But from that end, they just made you feel like you're part of the family. You're very important to them as much as you think they're so important. It's all together. It's one show. And at the end of the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, they all took Thursday off and then jumped into the next script the next time. So, and my time for about over 3 seasons 3, 4, and 5, the good old black and white days, you'd get that script and be just thrilled that, you got to privilege to be back on Andy Griffith again.
Yep. So you did a total of 8 episodes. 7 of those you were Howie Pruitt. 1 episode, the Realtor episode, I guess they needed you to be part of the Williams family, so you were Howie Williams, but essentially playing the same character.
Part of Andy Griffith trivia is that, and I have asked writers and the Bullock's family, and I've asked so many people, and they go, remember now, scripts were written on typewriters with paper, and the continuity was not always there. And my mom was so good. We read that script, and right away, I know I had a curious look on my face. And my mom she goes, Dennis, just shut up. You're Howie. And I went, okay. Well, we go into the round table, and we're reading the script for the first time with everybody. And Mr. Griffith is at one end of the table, and he notices a look on my face, and he just gets up from his chair, walks all the way down to me, and he goes, Dennis, are you okay? And I go, yes, sir, I'm fine. He says, is anything bothering you? I go, well, yeah, we've had, 6 episodes together, and we've had Out in the Forest and Stealing Food for the Hobo and With Miss Crump. And I just go, but now my name is Howie Williams. And he said, is that okay? And I go, sir, my mom just said, shut up, you're Howie. And he goes, oh, I love your mom. He goes, we can't rewrite the script and change the thing. And then, gosh, it wasn't more than about 2 months later, I'm back to being Howie Pruitt. So it was just trivia.
We wouldn't shoot you, mister.
What are you boys supposed to be?
We're playing Robin Hood. I'm Robin Hood.
Oh, yeah, huh?
We all saw the movie on television the other night.
But we had to quit right in the middle of it because it was our bedtime.
So the Opie and His Merry Men that you just referenced, I think that was maybe, at least in the order of when these aired, was the second one where you guys are doing the Robin Hood bit. And that looks like it was actually shot up at Franklin Canyon Reservoir, Myers Lake.
Well,
right?
And every friend said, did they really fly you to North Carolina? Guys, that was right up Coldwater Canyon. So we didn't have to go to the studio because Coldwater Canyon was 20 minutes from our house. So we just got to drive up there, and the whole episode was outside, out at the Franklin Lake. And I wish I could remember the character actor that played the hobo. Just a wonderful character actor. But, again, he really helped us and energized us. And, we stole the food and fed him. And then Andy, again, teaches a lesson at the end. No, guys, we don't take from each other. And no, we pay our taxes, and that's the whole thing. But yeah, that was episode number 2.
That location, I mean, I had never even been up there until I was actually listening to Alan Newsom's 2 Chairs, No Waiting podcast, and he kind of described it. And I'm like, oh, I always thought that they used Lake Hollywood for it, which is, fenced off. You can't go visit Lake Hollywood. And then I'm like, oh, I want to go check this place out. It is gorgeous up there. And it's this thing, you would never know that was in the middle of LA.
Right up on top of the hill that, separated the San Fernando Valley from Hollywood, and just a beautiful area. Yeah. But
and we even hooked up with Clint Howard once and took him up there. He had never been up there either, and that he remembers, who knows?
These memories are not his. He was so young at that time. And, we've shared stories now back and forth, and, wonderful guy, good storyteller. And I'm thrilled for him. You talk about a great character actor, he does so many different things, but for him to start on Mayberry, we all just had a fun start there.
I was trying to do the math, and it looks like your years in Mayberry were ages like 12 to 14, which, I mean, certainly you can clearly remember that experience. So that's awesome for you.
Every episode, every detail, it was a part of your life, but it was a separate part of your life. That was Dennis Howie. And your brothers and sisters always made sure that you knew, okay, Howie time is over. Sir, your turn to do the dishes. So, they kept you in balance.
Now, I know with like Ron, especially with Ron, when he would go back into the regular school, he kind of they gave him a hard time because he was just a household name. Clint, probably by the time he was on Gentle Ben, I'm sure he got razzed a bit. Did you experience that at all, or were you more of a character actor, so it wasn't so front of mind?
Not at all, because I always described my acting days was I was a Whitman sampler. I got to do so many different little parts. And in the grammar school I went to, there were other kid actors. There were two, a girl and a boy a few years older than me that did a lot of Walt Disney. Barbara Hunter was in Pollyanna and back and forth. And Mike McGreevy, gosh, he stayed in the industry behind the camera for a long time. But so those were the buffer zone. They were the adult children actors that I got to meet and talk to. When I went to high school, Jerry Mathers, Leave It to Beaver, took a terrible beating. Being 16, the beeve. And then Keith was 1 year older than me in high school. And so he got razzed with little Ricky. And then, I was a freshman, didn't really get it. It just didn't happen. It was a different life for me. So. Yes,
it helps if you're not the same character all the time. It's hard to pen you, with something. And bullying was like all the rage back in those days.
God rest my older brother. Oh, he was a bully. A little bit of jealousy in there, but Howie, your turn to do the dishes. Oh, Howie, Don, will you stop calling me Howie? So he was the only one that I really didn't like to be called Howie by.
So there was Andy and Opie's Pal. I think you just had like one little scene in that. But A Deal is a Deal is a really popular episode with the Miracle Salve. What can you tell us about that experience?
Well, that was, again, a real kick. And, that was the first time that I was able to work with Jim Nabors.
My name is Opie Taylor Sr., and my little boy sent away for some of your side.
The one before, Trey Bowden, where Opie and his pal, that was the introduction. So then now we got a new group of kids. So it's still Ron and little Ricky and myself. And now we got Trey as a buddy.
I think I'm going to quit and send all my salve back.
Not me. I'm going to try and sell some more.
Me too.
Either you clicked or you didn't click. And there were many a times that, kids say who has more lines and, mom's being a little bit more Hollywood than they should be. But the four of us, we just worked fine together. And then Keith had some of his own episodes. And then I had some of mine. And then David Bailey, Trey, he stayed on and actually, got into the color episodes later on. And actually, I think he played a different role than Trey.
Yeah, you guys had really good chemistry. And you can just tell Andy and the writers and everything, they saw that and just looked for opportunities to do more with you guys.
And Andy on more than one occasion, and especially when there were other kids joining in, for the Back to Nature or even for the Miracle Salve, when it was the four of us and then plus, he would always take us aside and go, hey, if any of you think you're Hollywood actors, there's the front door. Please feel free to go through. I need and want genuine kids. If it's funny, I want you to laugh. If it's not funny, I don't want you sneaking a peek at the camera. You know, the camera knows where you are. You're supposed to know where the camera is, but I just need you to be genuine. And the word genuine was hammered in a very gentle way. And that was I want real kids to be on my show.
Did that seem authentic to you for your own personal childhood, or did it seem made up?
You know, to go up and play in the forest. Well, you know, I grew up in a great neighborhood with lots of other kids. And so, no, you just played. It was just an extension of your real life. I was not, I got to be somebody different on Andy Griffith. Other shows I did. Some shows, you know, I went through like a couple weeks of dialect training so I could develop a Southern accent to be in a TV show with Gene Tierney, you know, great actress. And, you know, the Cowboys and Indians was so fantasy, Wagon Train and Gunsmoke and Deputy, Virginian. That was writing Cowboys and Indians with real Cowboys and Indians. I mean, that was a kick, but that wasn't real. So, but Andy Griffith was real. It's all there was to it.
So a deal is a deal is the first time you worked with Jim Nabors, but then again, the next time Back to Nature, where you're on the camping trip, you know, any stories stick out from that episode?
Well, again, number one, it was, you know, Jim Nabors' last Andy Griffith, because then he moved to Gomer Pyle. But people will look, and that looked so much like, oh, are you back up at the lake? Well, no, that was all done inside the big sound stage. And the gentleman drives up with his truck, and he's got the bow and arrows for us. And again, that was one of those episodes where, you know, other kids were brought in to fill in. I think we probably had, you know, close to a dozen, and we're all out there. But, you know, Andy, we're all sitting around the campfire, and Andy's telling us the ghost story. And of course, Don has to be just the funniest of the funny men. Just when you ask for both, Andy to me was the gentle giant. I could swear he was 10 feet tall. Yeah. He was just so big and powerful, but he was so nice and warm to all of us. But Don Knotts was just our big brother. He was just always with us, making sure that we knew what to do and how to do it, and offering us good advice and sound advice. But and then Jim Nabors, just the couple hellos was all we really ever had. But to say, yeah, I got to work with him twice. That was fun. Aunt B was the adult. Andy and Don were teenagers, and all the set, the directors and the writers and all that, they were just kids. They played practical jokes, but when Aunt B wasn't there, she would get her knitting. She would go over and sit with all of our moms. So they had a very good social time together, but never saw any of the nastiness that you hear and read about.
I mean, when you work together for that many years and it becomes a family, I mean, everyone has bad days and loses their temper and all that stuff. And then unfortunately, I think she just got tagged with some of the negative stories. It happens with everybody. Now, I've heard you tell a great story, so I'm going to ask you to tell it again. Barney's physical. You had talked about, what I had heard is that you had talked about, sticking to the script, knowing your lines, showing up on time, knowing your lines. That's the key for an actor. Tell me about Barney's physical and your experience in that episode.
And again, we only had one day. And again, it was really one long scene for the kids.
So let me back up and set this up. So this is the episode where Barney's got to take a physical, and he's not tall enough or heavy enough to meet the new standards for deputy sheriffs. So now he's going to stretch himself in the tailor's closet. And so Opie comes up with a scheme to make a little extra money, right?
You got it. So Ron always had a way. But we're rehearsing the scene. So it's Keith and Ron and myself and the director, just the four of us. And we had such a good time with each other. And I think we respected each other. that we could really rapid fire our lines real fast. Boy, one right on top. And the director was always very careful about, okay, now don't step on each other's line, but don't have a gap. So it was really a real dance. Okay, boom, 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 boom. And so we're rehearsing, and for the life of me, I don't remember what the real line was, but it was Keith, Ron, Dennis, Keith, Ron, Dennis. And I just drew a blank, and I said, well, he's hanging himself in your closet. And the director, his head spun around like it was The Exorcist. Ron and Keith both do a double take of, what did you just say? And I don't know, but I forgot my line, but I know it was my turn to talk. And they go, wait, that's better than the real line. So we put it in there. It worked. I can still see the hesitation. I saw the episode not but a few weeks ago, and there's just that little hesitation where I go, oh, this is Dennis talking, not Howie talking.
He is too. He is not. He is too. He is not.
Why don't you go in there and ask him if he's hanging himself?
I'm not going to go in and ask him if
He's hanging himself in your house.
Hey, you kids, get on out of here! What's the matter with you? Didn't you ever see a person with his head in a harness before?
Now, if I can, to follow that now, 50 years, 45 years later, we're back at Mayberry days. This is our first trip back for Keith and I. And they take us to a very nice dinner, and it's in the Andy Griffith Museum. And Dixie Griffith there, and Dick Atkins, the really nice director. And it's only about 20 people. And they take us on a little private tour. And we go back into the jail cell area, and there's a script opened up. And Keith sees it first, and his jaw just drops. He goes, Dennis, you won't believe it. We open that script from Barney's Physical is opened to the exact page of where the dialogue is, and there is the script director. She has crossed off my line and has handwritten the line in. So never got a writer's credit for it, but that's, again, because, and you said it early on, you followed scripts, and there was no ad-libbing, at least from my part, on that show. And, it was not anywhere near the Robin Williams days where, just let the guy go for three pages. No, we followed the script, and there was timing. It was always timing. You got 22 minutes to get the show going, develop, finish, throw a few commercials in, and that's the story.
Yep. And I saw some of that in one of my dad's scripts from Mountain Wedding, where he's, playing Dud Wash. And there's the famous bit that he does talking about, talking about Ernest T. I'll show him a couple of things I learned in guerrilla warfare.
He twists his neck and pulls his head around.
Yeah. And that dialogue was definitely played with on set. They changed some things around. And so there's a lot of marking up on that particular script page.
Well, and again, I think you trust adults a little bit more than kids to change lines. Right. So we didn't earn our chops yet.
So then the next, the one I have is Barney Fife, Realtor. That was one we kind of talked about where you were Howie Williams.
Right.
And a couple of good scenes there, some good dialogue. And then the last one, Opie's Newspaper, which is, one of my favorites, where you guys are reporting on gossip and all that. Any particular memories from either of those episodes?
Well, from both, the Barney Fife Realtor was a nice circle episode, because in the beginning, Opie's trying to sell me a bad bike, and Andy makes Opie tell the truth about the bike, and the inner tube is bad and the spokes, and so Opie gets a little bit irritated with Pa, and then we circle it around, and now
you got a little irritated with Opie trying to.
Hey, I'm not. I wouldn't buy that for a nickel, or I wouldn't take that for free, or whatever the closing line was. Yeah, I got to get a little snippy there, but then in the middle, Barney brings the couple over to see the house, and then Opie is telling Dad, hey, the ceiling's cracked, and the pipes aren't working, and now Andy gets a little bit irritated with Opie, and then you finish it up with, in my house, I'm floating the boat in the basement, And, hey, Dad. And that's where it got so odd when we're reading through the script that first time, because here it is. My dad is introducing me to Andy. And wait, we've just had, 7 fun times together. Why is my dad introducing me? And so Andy had to kind of modify that line. Oh, no. I've known Howie for years, something like that. But it was,
I think he says, we know Howie. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was kind of odd on that one. And then the last episode, it really, I didn't know it was the last one, but, hey, the phone stopped ringing and, I started to outgrow Ron. I was always 2 years older than him. I think it started to show, and I think it was time for, some new faces to come in. But that was fun. Yeah, we got to dig up the dirt on the neighborhood, and it was, again, one of the few, and I'm looking over my shoulder because I just got an envelope from a young man. Would I please sign this picture? And it's the picture of that episode. And it's the only picture I have with Aunt B. And it's with Don Knotts, Andy, Opie. So it's the whole group. And again, pictures at that time, we all didn't have cell phones. So pictures for me are a rarity. So my mom did a wonderful job of collecting whatever she could through all the time. And it's one of my most cherished possessions.
And we didn't make any of it up. It was all the things that people really said.
Well, just because somebody said something doesn't mean it has to be printed. You don't circulate stories that are mean and unkind about people. There are too many other stories to put in, nice stories.
But, Paul, when we put in the nice kind of stories, nobody wanted to buy the paper.
So you've become a regular now at the Mayberry events. I know, like most cast members, I think they kind of put it off thinking, why would, they be interested? And then you started doing it. It sounds like you really enjoyed it.
Oh my gosh. And it was Tanya Jones, sweetest lady that, is the real, the mastermind behind that. And again, growing up in that area and, having the privilege to meet Andy and I guess that Andy, must have given the group, the Surrey Arts Council, a little seed money to keep this event going. Well, the whole acting thing is long gone. Nobody knows these stories except my family and close friends. And you said it exactly. My biggest fear was I'm going to go back here. I'm an adult. I'm going to stand in a corner and people are going to, who is he? What is he doing here? And she goes, you just don't understand. And she called 3 years in a row and I kept politely turning her down. And she said, since you're turning me down, expect a phone call from somebody else in about a half hour. Well, half hour later, little Ricky, Keith Thibodeaux, calls me from Mississippi. And he goes, Dennis, who is this lady calling us? I go, Keith, I have no idea. Is she trying to sell us land or something? And we both said, look, let's go. And it was, again, this was my 7th year because we lost the 1 year, 8 year to that nasty bug. And but Keith and I, the first year, we both, just by coincidence, we meet at the airport. We ride up together. We bored our poor ladies to death with all of our stories because it took us about 2 minutes to get going. And Tanya, to this day, she will always poke me in the shoulder. See, I told you. And I mean, I have the 26 Mayberry calendar and it's there. The dates are already there. I would not think of missing this thing.
Well, yeah. I mean, the whole experience and meeting the fans and everything is what inspired my brother Stark to write the Mayberry Man movie, which is inspired by his first trip to Mayberry days. And it was the same deal where it's like, why would someone want my autograph on my father's picture? But they did. It's just really an opportunity to have conversation and connect with people that have a connection to the Andy Griffith Show. And I went the second year with him and did that, and it was a blast.
It's just, I can only use a family reunion as what this really is. It's just people you haven't seen. And again, we were all amazed this year. When we get together as a little group and we're having a cup of coffee or, a late night, sit around by the campfire, the amount of new people. And to me, I'm going, thing's been going on, 36 years this year? And I go, it's got to peak, and then it's got to start coming down. And it only keeps getting bigger and bigger. And again, gosh, it's up to a week now. And Tanya had told the story, hey, this started as Mayberry Day, one day, and this won't ever catch on. But again, in the world we're living in and the craziness that's going on, people return to this and just, hey, we want to, and I use it as going through the gates at Disneyland. Once you come into Mayberry and you've seen Pilot Mountain and you turn right, you're home. Hey, and again, I love the tribute artists. They're not caricatures. Sure. They're not trying to be that person, but what they're doing is just building this Mayberry spirit. And from Alan, who is just the gentleman of all gentlemen, and Eric Lowry. I thought in Mayberry Man, I thought he stole the show in the beginning. He was just
did an
the
amazing
judge.
Job. Yeah.
He just, I'm not an actor. And we talked that year after you made it, but it hadn't been released. And we were at Mayberry Day. So I'm going, okay, guys, what did you think? And they're, God, we had no idea. And we're at lunch and, camera angles. And we had to learn so much beyond dialogue. And you guys with the blooper reel, oh my God. Alan is a good sport, but son of a gun, I fell down and I remember so many of my bloopers, and somebody said, and I think it was Alan going, oh God, at least we weren't wasting film, because I know I wasted a lot of film. But we were doing a Walt Disney movie, and 4 kids all had to run from different directions and jump on top of an old cannon and then deliver the lines. Well, the poor director, after 45 takes, he was pulling out what little hair he had left, and around the corner comes a gentleman, all dressed, light blue slacks, light blue alpaca sweater, and it's Mr. Disney. And he would always walk around just like Grandpa. He wanted to see what was going on his shows. Well, you see him walk over to the director, and the 4 of us kids, we got together going, oh, we're in trouble. Mr. Disney walks over, sits us down. Guys, having a tough afternoon? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. He goes, do it one time for me. Well, how many more times did we do it? One time. It just, the magic of Mr. Disney, Mr. Griffith. These guys just knew how to talk to you and how to get it from you.
Now, was that your last film, Follow Me Boys?
It was not. It was in the movie. It was a 4-part Walt Disney Wonderful World of Color called Kilroy. That was the second to the last. And then like a year later, I got to be on my swan song. That was Follow Me Boys with Fred McMurray and Kurt Russell. Yeah,
I was going to say 1966, Follow Me Boys is the last credit I see on your IMDb. So that sounds like that is was the
close. See, that was, you used to go for a Disney part, and you would, they were called cattle calls. And you would go in for a part, and you would be with 500 other kids. And it was just bringing you in 30 or 40 at a time. And the directors, assistant directors, writer, it was just yes, yes, no, maybe, yes, yes, not even talking to you, because they knew what they were looking for.
Right.
Then when they narrowed it down, then it was, okay, let's see if you can talk. Okay, we moved through the second phase. But yeah, to get into a Walt Disney movie was a real hurdle, and it was a real honor if you did get it.
So, as I said, Follow Me Boys was your last credit. You probably did a close to 100 jobs, right? Films, TV, commercials, things like that. Yeah. Was there a moment when you realized it was, time to retire? Was that a choice? How did you arrive?
Well, it was a combination. The phone stopped ringing, to be very honest. And, if you're a teenager, that is a tough time in Hollywood, because for, child labor laws, why not hire the 21-year-old that can play a 16-year-old? And you were always playing parts a few years older anyway for the maturity factor. But the idea of, hey, we don't have to pay the school teacher on set. We're not limited by this child actor has to be in school for 3 hours, 1 hour lunch. So we only have 4 hours to work with them, where, hey, get the young looking adult. And there's where Ron was fortunate enough. Come on, for him to go back and do Happy Days as a high school kid. Well, he's an adult there. And the kids that made the transition in my time, it was Ron and it was Jodie Foster, and they made that leap and very few others. And once in a while you'd see, oh, hey, they made the leap. I just finished up high school and I was playing baseball. So that was a majority of my interest, and graduated from high school, getting ready for college. Well, I decided to go in the Marines. I go in the Marines, I come out, I'm in college, and never gave it a thought. I could no more imagine memorizing a script or going in for an audition and having to, fight for a part, to pay the mortgage, when it was like my time, starting with Jimmy Cagney, finishing with Walt Disney, throw Andy Griffith and Lucy in the middle for a good, just put a red ribbon on this box. I had a perfect child acting time.
So Ron Howard and Clint Howard wrote the book The Boys, which you get a mention in, but he talked about that sort of that dark period of mid-teen, late teens, where the phone stops ringing, and he experienced it too, because for the exact reason you described. It's like we can get an 18-year-old to play a 16-year-old. We don't need to hire a 16-year-old. So that was a common experience. And then I think he kind of broke out of that thanks to Happy Days, which kind of was the American Graffiti, right? That
American Graffiti, growing up. But you mentioned the book, and if I can, a quick one. We're at the Mayberry Days out at getting ready for the big parade. So we're all in the bank parking lot, and Clint comes over, and now we've shared a couple stories back and forth, but he goes, hey, my brother and I, we've just finished this book. We'd like you to have a copy of it. And I go, whoa, that's an honor. And he says, now promise you'll start reading it on the way home, on the flight home. I go, sure. So I'm flipping through the pages on the flight home, and somewhere around page 91, 92, I had let out with a O, and what I said, I'm sure I can't use. And people on the plane look at me and, oh my Lord. Now he's describing the first episode that we did, that Andy Discovers America. And he said, now, again, I worked with bratty kids. Ron was not. I think he was just excited about having kids on the set with him. And so he might have been a little bit more animated. But his dad and the director take him aside and say, hey, Ron, you're not hitting your lines. You're not hitting your marks. You're not giving it 100%. And you're not even the best kid actor on set today. That Dennis Rush, he's pulling it. Oh, my Lord, of all the things that Ron has remembered of his wonderful stories that he's made, why would he remember this? And I go, I can never see the guy again. And I got a note to Clint later on. I said, thank you so much for the book, but would you please tell Ron I'm sorry? But it was a wonderful time, and I've got the book right behind me, and it's tattered and torn. I've gone through it and shown so many people.
Yeah, my father and my older brothers also got mentioned in the book. I did not. I was a little too young to be part of that crowd, but Stark and my other brother, they were hanging around with Ron and Clint, and Ron put them in their, his original Super 8 movies that he was making as a teenager. They were the so-called talent, and so they got mentioned in there. And then my father, Hoke Howell, was best friends with Rance Howard, and they were writing partners. And so the book really filled in a lot of the gaps for me, because it was all stuff I overheard growing up, really.
No, and for us too, because you were in that time with Ron. Oh gosh, I didn't know that. And and when him going to Burroughs High School in Burbank, and my gosh, to Sherman Oaks, that was only a few, but we never saw each other. People, oh, did you guys play and have fun together? Guys, we were acting. And when we were done acting, we just went about our normal lives. We never crossed paths. And not that you didn't want to, but you just didn't. And you closed that part off. Let me give you one little one on Ron. And we saw it happening. The sets are closed, and those giant cameras of those days, everybody's out having lunch. Well, Ron would get behind the camera, and Keith and I would get in the jail cell, and Ron would just direct many little, okay, guy, no, move over here. But even at 10, 11 years old, there was something going on inside of him that said, no, I'm going behind the camera. And I think the guy's he learned how to tell good stories, and he has told good stories. And That's me. I go to a movie, I want to be told a fun, good story. And if you do that, you got me.
Ron tells a story about when he was working on the Andy Griffith Show, and one season, he was always a big baseball fan, and he tells a story about the year Sandy Koufax and Don Drysdale were holding out in spring training for more money.
Remember
and then,
well.
When they did sign, I guess, and it was announced how much money they got, he realized he was making more than his heroes, his sports heroes. Now, being a regular on a series was one thing, but I was just curious. Do you remember what your day rate was back, when you were a child actor?
Absolutely. No, on a day rate, it was like $125, and for a week it was $350. And you talked about $1 million. That was $1 million at that time. That was just ridiculous. My friends had 50-cent an hour paper routes, and it was just, but it was there, but it wasn't something you were thinking about. I remember my mom handing me a $100 U.S. savings bond. Okay, put this in your bottom drawer. Well, I long lost that thing. I have no idea. But no, the money, and again, the money today, and gosh, when I see the young man on 2.5 Men making $350,000 an episode, I go, oh, was I in the wrong time? But it was ridiculously good money at the time. My dad, I was making more money than my dad. So, I mean, I know the reality of it, and he had 8 kids. So when we went on a little vacation and, we added a swimming pool, I knew we were all chipping in. So, yeah.
And well, Dennis, I want to thank you for this time.
Court, it was totally my pleasure. Good talking with you. Stay well. Travel safely.
Hey, listen, if you like that video, hit the like button. There's going to be plenty more.
If you want more videos about The Andy Griffith Show, be sure to hit subscribe and click that little bell icon so you're notified whenever we post a new video. Thanks for watching. Now click one of the videos on your screen for more Mayberry fun.